to look at preparing a cash budget. It's S22-11 from the back of your book. I have the book pulled up top and the working paper template down below. So the problem tells us Booth has $12,500 in cash on hand on January 1st and has collected the following budget data. For January and February, we have sales, cash receipts from customers, cash payments for direct materials, direct labor costs, manufacturing overhead, which includes depreciation. And then it says, assume direct labor costs and manufacturing overhead costs are paid in the month incurred. Additionally, assume Booth has cash payments for selling and administrative expenses, including salaries of $40,000 per month, plus commissions that are 1% of sales, all paid in the month of sale. The company requires a minimum cash balance of $20,000. Prepare a cash budget for January and February, round to the nearest dollar. Will Booth need to borrow cash by the end of February? And so I'll jump down into our Excel sheet down here, and they already have our initial title information, so we can start with the beginning cash balance, which they gave us $12,500. And then we're going to next list cash receipts, which was $443,000. And that's going to give us cash available. And we'll add these two cells together to get $455,500 cash available. Next, we're going to want to list the cash payments. So we have materials, labor, manufacturing overhead, and also selling and administrative expenses. So I'll list all of those. And I went ahead and indented these because it's a subset of our cash payments. And so for our purchases of direct materials, we're just pulling this information down. So we have $180,624. Direct labor, we have $135,10. Manufacturing overhead, we have $55,058, but it's telling us $900 of that is depreciation. So we need to subtract that out because this is a cash budget. And so we're really just looking at the movement of cash, and depreciation does not impact cash because cash was already paid for that asset in the past, and we're breaking down the expense associated with it over the life of the asset, but cash is not actually being paid in the month of January in regards to depreciation. So we'll, in the cell for manufacturing overhead, we'll say equals $55,058 minus $900. And then for our selling and administrative expenses, we have $40,000 plus commission of 1% of sales. So here we'll say equals $40,000 plus, and then we'll open a bracket. We have sales of $529,000 times 1%. And we get $45,290 for selling and administrative expenses. So then we'll do a total cash payments, and we'll use the sum function here to add together all of these cash payments. And then our cash available minus total cash payments will give us ending cash balance before financing. So we'll take our cash available minus our cash payments for $40,418. Then we list the minimum cash balance desired, which was $20,000. And that's going to give us a projected cash excess or deficiency. And so because we list the minimum cash balance desired in the negative, we add these two cells together, the ending cash balance before financing, plus that negative 20,000 desired balance gives us 20,418. So then below that, we would list financing. We'd have borrowing, principal repayments, I think it actually wanted me to list this up because we're going to run out of room. That'll give us total effects of financing. And finally, an ending cash balance. So in this case, because we have a cash excess, we have more than our required ending balance. We don't need to borrow. There's no repayment that needs to be made. And so there's no effect of financing. And so the ending cash balance is just our ending cash balance before financing, because there was no impact. So then, for February, we're going to start out, our beginning cash balance is going to be the ending cash balance from January. So we'll just use a cell reference to pull that 40,418 up. Cash receipts, we have 502,200. Cash available, we can just pull this formula over to add those together. Our materials, 160,284, 113,348. Manufacturing overhead, 53,922 minus 900. Our selling administrative, we have to use that same formula where we're saying 40,000. Actually, we can probably just, nope. We can't pull it over because the sales isn't listed down here. So we'll say equals 40,000 times, open parentheses, our total sales of 568,000 times 1%, close parentheses. Oops. There should be a plus, not a times, I apologize. That looks better. And so we can pull over our total cash payments, sum function. Same thing here. So we have an ending cash balance before financing of 170. Our minimum cash balance is still 20,000. So we have a cash excess of 150,000, which again leaves us with no need to finance. And so we don't have that financing happening here. If we did need to borrow, usually the problem will tell you something like we have to borrow in increments of 1,000. So if we were deficient by, let's just say that this was instead of an excess, this 20,418 was a deficiency, and we could only borrow in increments of 1,000, we would have to borrow $21,000. So we would put our 21,000 here, and then we would start making repayments in the future months or quarters based off of the interest rate that applies. So then in our total columns, just a couple things to be aware of. Our total for beginning cash balance is going to be the January cash balance. Don't actually sum these together. The cash receipts we will add together. And so for cash available, you can go either direction. If you add together across the row, don't add across the row, we're totaling down. So our cash available is this beginning 12,500 plus the 145,200, and we get 957,700. Now, for these purchases, we're totaling across the row, and so once you type that once, you can pull that formula down. And then stop when you get to total cash payments, because your ending cash balance before financing is going to be a reference to February. So up here for beginning cash balance, we reference January. For ending cash balance, we're going to reference February. The minimum cash balance desired is still 20,000. Don't add these together, we're just pulling that number over. And it stays the same from month to month. And then so we can add these together to get our projected cash excess or deficiency of 150,284. And we would be summing here, but that's of course going to give us zeros. And so we are back to our cash balance of 170,284. And so the last part was, do we need to borrow cash at the end of February? And the answer is no. We have cash excess beyond our minimum desired balance of 20,000, so there's no need to borrow cash at the end of February.